Danse, coming from amiskwaciwâskahikan, also known as its colonial name, Edmonton. um, Wanted to begin the very first interview of this process, of this project, telling my story, telling you about Mobilize, where that name came from, where the ideas come from, how it works, different things like that. We go full screen. Cool. So this is my daughter. This is Nayana. You want to say hi? She's I have three daughters, so I'll begin with that story. So there'll be a lot of stories to kind of explain what this is, my process, and how these things go. So I'm a father. I have three daughters, and I'm very proud to be a father to three girls. It's very special, and even like the Mobilize beginnings was a part of that story. The pink matriarch hoodie to honor the matriarchy, to honor all the powerful women that have come before, that have led our people, that continue to keep our people balanced, continue to keep us strong. The simplest teaching that I've had that's just true and powerful is that without them, we don't exist. They're the life givers, connected to the spirit world, much different than we are. And so I began the story of Mobilize with the pink matriarch hoodie intentionally so that as my daughters grew, that story would remain, and that it would always have that element of softness in that beginning. Each one of my daughters when they were born were like life changers. They made me grow so much, tap into an artistic and soft side of myself that I think I had suppressed for many, many years. Growing up, I was raised in a very, very strict Christian environment, and it limited the ways that I could connect with my own people, my own family. It was very controlling of my being, from how you could wear your hair to the types of clothes you could wear, following a very old biblical sense. And it took me many years through my teen years and early adulthood, to find myself, to start finding the indigenous stories and teachings and all of this like spiritual connection that I have felt for most of my life but never understood fully. Very lost and not knowing where to identify with. A big thing for me was sport, was playing basketball. My family had moved from Calgary to Edmonton as I began junior high. It was grade 7, and I met my first really strong mentor. He has since passed on, and it's hard to talk about in those ways because like I miss him, and he taught me a lot. And the first thing that he taught me was like the game of basketball. His name was Alan Ross. Love and miss him, but I know he stays around, and he did a lot of good work to connect Indigenous people through the sport of basketball. He created the Edmonton Native Basketball Association, the Spring Thaw Tournament, which would bring teams from like around the country, Indigenous teams. So from junior high to high school to being a young adult, I got to participate in these. I got to play. I got to connect with Indigenous people from different parts of Turtle Island, mostly Western Canada, and it connected me with a lot of really, really cool people, a lot of powerful athletes, artists, families, and it connected me with the culture in ways that I had never been before. And so through the game of basketball, I found identity, I found community, connection, and yeah, Nayana, you can go in and out if you want. Can you just close the door if you go out? Thank you, baby. And yeah, it connected me like never before. And then I got to be part of organizing the youth tournaments. As I got older, I got part of creating indigenous teams. We have a few all-native basketball teams from Edmonton that travel, play in money tournaments. So those were like brotherhoods that were so special. And coming from different nations, we got to like have this diverse community. So like everywhere we'd be going, like someone would be like, yo, I have a relation there, because that's just how our people are, how our families are. We got lots of cousins, we got a lot of people everywhere. So basketball allowed me to connect and to find identity with the culture again. But something for myself personally that was lacking through that whole journey was love of self and identity just in my being. That's funny, I wear a toque today, but I actually don't. I'm gonna take it off because the story is about my birthmark and a journey for me that like allowed me to grow a lot, but it was hard. As a kid, I never noticed that I had like a facial mark that was different, and it was only in junior high, around the same time that I started playing basketball, that the Austin Powers movie with the Moly 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 thing came out, and kids went at me hard in junior high. I remember like switching schools. I remember just being angry, and from that point, always wanted to remove my birthmark, but never going through with it, never doing it. But then hiding it for years and years, and like through high school, like even people I went to high school with, like I had this like swoop hairstyle, and the whole purpose was to hide my birthmark, because for me it made me feel ugly, and because of the society that we live in, external was so important. And even though I knew I was a strong person, I knew the kind of person that I was, it affected me in those ways. Hi, Ram. So it's okay, girls. So I'm actually like just sitting in the bedroom of the adult bedroom in my house. So me and my partner's room. Okay, can you close the door, please, Ram? Thank you. Yeah, so that's break-in number one. Oh, number one, sorry. Break-in number one. So Remy and Nayana came in here. We have, yeah, we keep our kids close, so they're very like comfortable in here. We sleep with them a lot. Our babies, so their ages are 5, 3, and 2. Our oldest is almost 6. It's been really wild, like 5-6 years of growth, of change. The energy that kids bring into your life is like nothing you felt before. It's really cool. And kind of, okay, jumping back in. Yeah, so because of this bullying, because of this even internal shaming that I had on myself, I like never showed my birthmark. And it also like changed a part of me that I had to express in different ways, that I had to stay balanced in different ways. So basketball then became like a focal point in my life, and I like play ball every day. Every day I play ball. That's all I would do. Even like pieces now are designed and inspired by that journey through those years. And Castle Downs YMCA was the spot. That's where I would hoop. Grew up Northside Edmonton, Calder Block, and played community ball for Wellington. Shout out Wellington. We went undefeated for all the years we hooped. Atia, shout out Atia. And yeah, so ball became like the sanctuary for me. So the place that I could just go and forget everything, forget all that Christian bullshit that I was raised with. I could forget that I didn't fully accept myself. I wore a headband a lot when I played ball, and so I felt like a superhero out there. I was like, this is just who I am, and it was a very special place. And I got over that time putting those hours in. I got good at ball. Played club basketball for a local club called Red Storm, and got to play throughout high school in the States in some of the biggest tournaments in the world, in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and it was just a really cool, fun, growing experience, and created growth in myself. So through sport, I was motivated to keep growing, to stay in school, to make sure that I had enough grades to get into university, college. Through my last couple years of high school, I was getting college and university offers, and that was really cool and special. And then when I graduated high school, I was picked as a Edmonton Journal All-Star, which is like the top 10 players in Edmonton, and I was the only Indigenous player on that. And there's only been a few, so I still got this ring that I keep forever. It's like one of the only things that I kept. I haven't kept very many medals. You remember that ring I showed you that had the blue?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then it gave me the opportunity to go and play college basketball for King's University. So I enrolled there, went to go play college ball, and blew out my knee.
What?
I busted my knee. I tore tendons in my knee, and so I was in a full brace for a few months as my knee healed. And in that time, transferred schools, went to U of A, stayed at U of A for a couple years, took some native studies, and that was the first time that I started to learn.
I love your bacon.
You love bacon? The true history of what happened to the Indigenous people through contact, through the treaties, the trickery and maliciousness that happened, and the ways in which our own values that are so special and so beautiful were used as ways to manipulate and to gain land and gain people and access, gain knowledge. And so that's when I began to first learn about that. And it fueled something in me, being like, our educational system is failing. It didn't teach me anything about my people. Colonialism has come here and brought Christianity as a weapon to separate and assimilate culture from my people. And it happened in my own life directly, and it fueled something in me. That was like, for me, a turning point where I was gonna use this knowledge and I was gonna continue to educate myself, and that would change for my children. So after a couple years there, I transferred back to King's University, and I did play some college ball. It was a lot of fun, and really cool community of sport that exists in Edmonton. So a brotherhood. There was one Indigenous brother on the team named Sage, my best homie to date, and we just connected. We got to be in this environment with no other Indigenous people, so we had to rep it in those ways, make sure people were accountable in those ways. And at the end of my time playing hooping, I met my partner, and yeah, life kind of very quickly progressed from that, from being a student athlete to always being in the community, very social person, like to do a lot of things, to family man. So our first daughter, Lola, was born in 2014, we had our first place together, our first daughter, and life was so different. I had to work full time. I had, for the first time in my life, like responsibilities outside of my immediate family and the different roles that I played growing up, um, to like holding it down for real. And there was a lot of growth and a big transition. Hi guys. Okay, girls. Yes, if you want to be, yes, you can be in here, but you guys need to just be quiet, okay? I'm just telling the stories. You can listen to the stories, 100%. So these little girls, this is Lola here. They changed my life. They changed who I was, and kind of tapped back into like my own childish version, like back to like Dusty as a kid. As a kid, even though being raised in a church like that, I was a very huge imagination. So one blessing of that environment was they didn't believe in technology. It was like so evil, secular, and so like I didn't grow up with a TV. So I grew up with just a mind. I used to play games every day and be characters.
Nana, come on, let's go.
This is real.
Nana, come on.
And
Stop it, Nana.
that was like my first experiences with fashion. Like looking back at it now, understanding that was the times that I was like learning what I like to style. I loved hats. There's all these pictures of me as like a young kid under 5, like 2 to 5, just like all kinds of hats, different things. Always playing dress up. Like every game I played, I would get down as the character. So whoever I was that character. I had like
You can come on my lap.
a tickle trunk of stuff. And
Remy.
it's okay, Ram. Would you get more bacon?
Yeah.
I love bacon. They're eating bacon. It's breakfast time.
We would have had breakfast
yeah, so
way
like
earlier.
just having these girls, they brought this energy to my life that had been gone for a long time. And they also, with my partner and them, like it was like one of the first times that I felt like so loved and accepted and just like could be weird, dusty, and they just embraced me always. And so the artistic side of myself began to very like flow a lot, and I had wanted to start clothes for a long time. A lot of it due to my work with youth. From the point I was 12 years old, I was like coaching and mentoring young youth through the game of basketball, and until adulthood, that changed into youth work in the social work sector and being a youth worker for indigenous youth, one-on-one work. And a lot of the youth that I worked with would always ask about my clothes because I would like rep indigenous brands or from all over and want to bring those stories and bring that identity to the forefront. And that's the point in my life too where I started to regrow my hair, and I wanted a braid. I had never had a braid in my life. I had always like felt so disconnected, and my hair and my clothes, it became my statement to people, being like, this is who I am and this is who we are. And I began to like, always with the young people that I worked with, they'd ask about it, and I began to use it as a platform to like share those stories and to share what that piece meant. A lot of the indigenous streetwear is so strong because of the stories that are rooted in it and the culture that's rooted in the pieces, the community that it creates. And I love streetwear. Like as a hooper, as somebody who loved hip hop, streetwear was my clothing choice. And I began to like formulate these ideas of like creating a product for the youth that could connect them with culture, with their identity, that could tell the stories, but in new ways, in a new platform, understanding that there is different levels of disconnect and different ways that we have to reach the communities that we're involved in, the different types of energy that we have to bring. And I wanted to be able to tell those stories and be able to embrace that weird side of myself and hopefully inspire others to do the same. I've always dreamed of being revolutionary, of being like Shay, being like Crazy Horse, Geronimo, Sitting Bull, Big Bear, being like these great leaders and revolutionary people, Malcolm X. A lot of people that inspired me, a lot of things that I began to read, and understanding that that was going to begin first with me. That I had to love all of me. I had to accept all of me first before I would have the ability to give that energy to the world. And so, even today, continually self-reflection and loving of self, staying true to who you are, and especially in times like this, and not conforming. So, my story is one of that journey of self-love and coming to a place where finally I'm at a point in my life where I love all of me in this moment. It changes, it evolves, but I'm hoping that Mobilize can bring people together to do that same purpose, to create community in new ways and inspire others to do it. Always willing to share and to chat about the process, about things, knowledge that I've gained. In school, while I was playing ball, I was also studying business, so that contributed to a lot of good things now, and just like knowledge of how this capitalism bullshit works and how it functions and how to manipulate it. And always happy to share. I love to be in schools and to tell this story to the young people. So thank you for all of you that have invited me to your spaces as well to share this story. I've wanted to have a platform with Mobilize where stories could be shared as well, and I've been curious about doing a podcast. So this project will be the beginnings of that, and there's been a lot of really cool people that have already said like they're in for doing an interview. So that's very special. I'm very honored by that, and I'm honored to share their stories with you and to have that dialogue and to create community in a time where we're stuck at home right now, and there's a lot going on in the world. There's a new energy that's here. There's things happening. There's a lot of things happening behind closed doors right now. In my personal opinion, Mother Earth is speaking, and we have to do better. We have to take care of her better. We have to take care of each other better. We have to be the fluid society that our people used to have all the time. We have to be like those circles in ceremony. We have to be like the elders tell us. And we have to take care of the next generation and everybody that is around us. We have to put love into this world. And so, Love Mob podcast. It's about love. It's about that mob, bringing people together. Shout out Mob Bounce. And a space for storytelling, for simple storytelling. Thank you for listening today to this. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk on, because one of my teachings is to just speak from here, to just speak from the heart, and allow it to be in that moment. And so I represent that in my work as well. Every space I go into, bios, different things that I do, or different things I have to write up for Mobilize, it's always like off the top. It's always that moment, understanding that we are continually growing beings and we are evolving, We are changing. And so, all love. Thank you for tuning in. Kasagitin. I love all of you. And I'm thankful for the support to this point. I'm thankful for this community. There's clothing stuff and different things. So if there's anything you guys are curious about, that want to have like questions or have another session to go over like what you're curious about as far as the Mobilize story, just let me know in the comments. Or if there's people you think that you're like, yo, you should talk to this person. This would be a cool conversation. Comment, share it with them, let them know. This is episode 1. Say it at the end, not at the beginning. Episode 2 will be me and my daughter Lola. It'll be less of like coming and going of my daughters. We've already recorded it, so we're just like sitting. She gets to tell you her story and her perspective on the pieces that she created, and it's very like special little interview too. We did that one yesterday, this one today, so I was mad nervous about doing this. And just thank you for listening, and thank you for telling your stories. Thank you for being you, and all that you do, just do it the way that you want. Follow your heart, follow your gut, be intuitive, and be weird, and represent that always. Because with diversity comes more beautiful community. It allows us to take care of each other in much better ways. So in these times of disconnect and being at home, focus on yourself, focus on that growth, and be innovative as our people have always been. And find new ways to do this and to do these things to connect.